Welcome to the 30th episode of The Smartest People in the Room. If you've been following this series, you understand what we are doing, shining a light on incredibly smart, accomplished people and helping them share stories from their careers and lives, as well as anecdotes about their past, present, and future. Today, I'm thrilled to present three very successful people who work closely, yet in three different capacities in the music industry. One is a multi-instrumentalist from Grammy-nominated global touring group, the Avett Brothers. One is the manager of the Avett Brothers, and the third is the head of the band's Emmy Award-winning production partner, Seven Cinematics. This group is going to be fantastic, and we are pleased to have them as our guests today. Before we get started, let me take care of a little bit of business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these events is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work that they do every day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Some of you may know that I am a music industry headhunter. By definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please feel free to introduce yourselves, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible along the way. I also want to thank our sponsors. Thanks to First Horizon Bank, Bufkin Baker, Four Roses Bourbon, the Fairlane Hotel, Core Power Yoga, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Lightning 100, Tennessee Brew Works, Moo TV, Jive Printing, Project Music, and also Organics. Now, let's get down to business. Today's interviewer is Mr. Adam Paul. Adam is CEO of Seven Cinematics, a three-time Emmy Award-winning production company known for producing the world's foremost live music broadcasts and video streams. With hundreds of live shows produced to date, the company has redefined an industry by creating and producing groundbreaking broadcasts, including the Red Hot Chili Peppers live from the Great Pyramids, Kanye West's Sunday Service, the Brothers 50 at Madison Square Garden, the Raconteurs with Jack White live at the Ryman Auditorium, Dead & Company live at Folsom Field. The company's work has aired on NBC, DirecTV, PBS, CBS, Netflix, YouTube, and other streaming platforms. Headquartered in Greensboro, North Carolina, the company also has studios in Nashville and Los Angeles. And joining Adam today are two very important members of the Avett Brothers organization. First is Dolph Ramzuer, music manager and record label owner. Dolph Ramzuer was born in the Odell community of Concord, North Carolina, and raised on a healthy diet of classic country and rock and roll. In July 2000, Dolph started his own independent record label and management company, Ramseur Records. He has helped foster the creative and artistic visions of the Avett Brothers, Bombadil, David Childers, Samantha Crane, the National Reserve, Ruin Brothers, Sammy Miller and the Congregation, and the Steep Canyon Rangers. Welcome, Dolph.
Thank you.
And our third guest is Scott Avett. Scott grew up in a musical household in rural North Carolina. He's founding member of the Grammy Award-nominated band, the Avett Brothers, as well as an accomplished visual artist. In 2019, the North Carolina Museum of Art hosted Scott's first solo art exhibition called Scott Avett Invisible, which featured large-scale portraits, prints, and paintings. Scott lives in North Carolina with his wife and three children. Welcome these three amazing guests to the smartest people in the room. Take it away, Adam.
What's up, guys? I'm so happy to be on here with you. The first thing I'm excited about, because I was watching the NASCAR race last night, is what are we going to do for the intro for this next shoot? That was I had a lot of fun doing that because I got to practice the shot, which means I got to drive my Toyota Tundra around the racetrack at Charlotte like 10 times just to make sure I had it perfect. But what are you thinking, Dolph and Scott? What we got planned?
Well, I know, Scott, do you want to keep it a secret for the fans?
Well,
maybe we should, but, we're working on something.
We're working on. I just want to know if I'm going to be able to practice again and get on the racetrack.
Yeah, we should all get to practice again with our minivans and our pickup trucks.
Wasn't that funny? It was like we were having a blast in minivans and pickup trucks and just blasting around the track.
Yeah, I think Joe Quan was sitting on a child seat in one of the back seats of ours.
But
it's amazing that a 2016 Honda Odyssey can outhandle a 1965 Galaxy on a track. But I don't know. Seth's not here to defend himself about that. So.
Well,
that did bring out the kid. I know it brought out the kid in me. I felt like everybody was kind of giddy when we were in the cars going around the track. I don't know. It's just sort of something you see on TV. Then when you get a chance to do it, it's just kind of larger than life kind of thing.
When you get into that bank, you're like, oh man, this is really awesome.
Yeah, I should. No doubt, Adam. We should tell everybody that I got in the car with Seth to feel it like we were just getting a test drive. We went around one time. Seth was driving. I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this tonight. I don't think I'm going to be able to. I think you guys can do this if you want, but I'm out. And then we did it again, and I was like, no, I'm liking this. And then when I drove it and felt kind of what he was doing, and while I was getting nervous, I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah, he's got it, no doubt. He had it. It's a crazy sensation.
Well, I'll remember that moment for my whole life. A plan is always a plan until you actually make it happen. And that was a big plan. We had the Galaxy sitting in the winner's circle, and we had all these fans there. It's the first show back, with real people there. And what a weight we all had on our shoulders. And we were all wondering if we're going to do this thing right. We're going to mess this thing up. How are we going to do it? We want the fans to be safe. We want them to have a good show. How's this going to work out? And we've got the drone over the top, and you guys come out and you go around the track, and it's up on the big screen, this huge 200-foot by 80-foot big screen. And it's on the other side of the track, so people don't really know if it's real or not, if this is pre-recorded, which was so cool. And all of a sudden the car comes around the track like this, and everybody starts to see and starts honking their horns and flashing their lights. And it was a moment I'll remember for a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say that, like there's a chat right there. I'm a musician, songwriter from Nashville, Tennessee. I miss live concerts, so I hope to hear some good, safe ideas. I will say that the drive-in model seems pretty great. And especially if the people, I think the only hole in it is how people handle their passenger count and if they know their passengers in the cars and whatnot. Beyond that, it seems really safe. And it seems like also something I've thought a lot about during this time. It's one thing for a group who's been a band almost 20 years like us to say, okay, look, we're going to have to sit, we're going to have to sit this out for a little bit. It's a whole different thing when you're a young songwriter that's just trying to get a hold on things. And you can get all the success you want online, but you want to be in front of people and play. There's no substitute for it. It is what it is, and that's it. And missing out on that is stressful. And so I think that the drive-in thing, man, there's a lot of room for making that happen. I mean, I got to say, Seth, we were kind of prepared for it to feel really strange, and it had its normal strange attributes about it, but it also felt like a festival. And
totally did.
I mean, we literally used to drive around with a truck that we had put a piano in the back, and we would park in a parking lot and play. Well, it's not so far off of that, And it also, when this is all said and done, people that harness that and try it, they might find that it flexes muscles that when they get in front of a popping crowd that's like a jam-packed house, they're going to find they're just ready for it, and they're more capable of it than they knew, which is exciting to think about.
Well, the other thing that I found, and we all found just so heartwarming, was all the videos and the social media and all these new things that, have evolved during COVID. And we're using social media in a good light, I feel. not some of the bad, political ways. This was a good use of social media, and these people with the pay-per-view were posting these videos of them in the backyards having a. So it was like we had a party at the track with real people. We also had real people all over the country and all over the world, being a part of this, and it felt real. And I had someone write the other night, it was on Avett Brothers fan page, and how much it meant to her. And she had she has a lung condition, so she couldn't come out. She said, she was just talking to the group, saying, how much it meant for her to be able to be in her backyard and feel like she was at a concert again. And it really touched me that, wow, it's how important of a job is it that we all have to be able to give people music, because music is so important to happiness. It's so important to well-being. It's so important to health. It's so important to all different types of things. It's like a church experience. And, I don't know. It was just incredible. So Dolph, when you guys started coming up with this idea, what was the impetus, and did you guys, you brought me in about 4 weeks before, and it kind of, evolved pretty quickly. Tell me a little bit about the process of coming through the creative of making it happen.
Well, one afternoon, I'm walking in a park across the street from where I live, and Adrian Parker, who works for me, called me up and said, "What do you think about David's playing a show at the Speedway using the big screen and a drive-in show?" And years ago, Adrian worked at the Speedway. He has since he's kind of a consultant for me, but he also manages NASCAR drivers. That's what he does. Like, he's a part of Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott, Daniel Hemrick, that group. There's a whole slew of drivers they have.
A hell of a cool cucumber too.
Yeah. When he worked at the Speedway, Scott will remember this. They played their first headlining show at Red Rocks. We streamed it over at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where I think we had close to about 4,000 paid to come over there and see it, like watching a movie. And man, how things have changed with the internet, because I guess they did not have fiber optic at the time, and the thing kept kind of getting delayed. It kept kind of stopping. It kind of was upset. I remember my son, I knew my son was pretty smart, because at age 5, he's watching it with me. We're sitting in lawn chairs watching the show. And after about 20 minutes, he came up to me and said, "Dad, this is a total debacle." And I was just so glad he knew that word. But it kind of worked out, and they kind of got the kinks out of it. But Adrian was a part of that. And, but yeah, Adrian called me and said, "What do you think about a drive-in show?" And then, right after I talked to Adrian, on the same walk in the park, I called Scott, and Scott said, "Yeah, I'd like to hear more about it." And then that's when we started getting all the details. And Adrian and I had probably about 4 site visits over there, going over the logistics of how many cars could park. We would drive to all the little locations on where could you see the stage, where could you see this. You can see the screen anywhere. But it's kind of a part of the thing where, where can you see the guys and the screen perform at the same time? And there's some people that do have obstructive views. But yeah, that's just kind of how it all kind of came together. And it seems like we were on the forefront. Maybe some others were doing that in Europe, maybe, or the idea, maybe I saw an article right around the same time when Adrian called me. So, yeah.
Well, it felt, I saw somebody ask, it says musicians are essential workers too. I think we all got together before this and during it. We all felt like we had the weight of the entire industry on our shoulders, and not only the industry, but the fans, other musicians, the people that do the lighting rigs and the production rigs and all this. It was like, hey, not only are we going out to do a show for the fans and for the musicians and for us, we're doing this for everybody. and we got to get this right. And I have never, and you know, we all know how road crews get when they've been on the road for about 5 weeks. They can get a little grouchy, a little grumpy, and you know, everybody's in the wrong place at the wrong time. I have never been on a happier shoot in my life. Every single person was, oh, thank you. Oh, this is great. You know, and I think we all felt that energy of what, if we could pull this damn thing off, if we can do this and make all the pieces perfect, we could set the stage for everybody else. And it seems like that has been the case, because all these drive-ins are popping up and they seem to be successful. And heck, we're all going back and doing one in a few weeks that we're excited about. So, you know, I felt that. Did you, you know, Scott, did you, from the musician side, could you feel the kind of heaviness and the weight, the positive heaviness and the weight of what we were doing there?
Yeah. You know, at the same time, I mean, all those things, but at the same time, I think other than the ones that are helping the process, I mean, I'll just say my exercise or my practice is to put those that are tormenting away, that are kind of making it feel like some sort of critical make or break moment, like, hey, we're coming back. If this goes wrong, we're screwed. Or if this goes wrong, we've let a bunch of people down. At the point we decide to, at the point that we commit to it, it's like, this could go well. There's a few ways it could go wrong. In this climate, it could go real wrong. There's more chance that it's going to go well because we've done everything we can. But since we have done everything we can do it and rest easy knowing we did everything we can. If something does go wrong, we learn from it and move forward. But at that point, it's like the critical nature of it's gone. It's all about just preparing to make sure that we can go do our job, understanding that it might be very different than what we prepare for. And that's all good. That can happen at any time. And then the number one priority after that is as cliche as it sounds, is to enjoy ourselves doing it. And it was easier to enjoy ourselves knowing the value of it after you're not able to do it for a little while. You know, missing it helped go and say, well, even if it's not idyllic circumstances and there's some variables, it's like, that's all right. So what? In a lot of ways, if you were really unhappy to work on that set, that's probably an indicator that, and that's not a bad indicator. It's just an indicator that you might be in the wrong business. You know, if you're away from it that long and you go back and it's like, this sucks, you'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, that's okay. You know, that's totally okay. That's could be a very positive revelation as well. You know, going at it with just the four of us too, a lot of that had to do with just mechanics. I saw some questions about that, about thinking about songs and set list. And there's a flip side of that where you try to not think about, like, just say, well, what set list will we play? But then don't overlook the reality that this is a different form, and this is us circa 2007, really. You know, this is much more of that sort of lineup, and without some of the equipment that we even had then. So that was a nice challenge, a nice simplification. You know, we're going to do it again. The only reason we're doing it is because we had some reservations about how many people would have to travel. We had reservations about how many people we had to get in one place. Funds are different. The whole thing's different. So in a lot of ways, we're just sort of starting back at square one. But we have every intention to be operating as a group again as well, with all seven of us on stage.
Well, I saw somebody ask, what was it like to play for Cars? And I'll let you answer that in a second. But for me, as a director behind the scenes, when that drone shot came up and it was over and the car started honking and the lights started flashing, and it was like the weirdest but awesomest and coolest. I felt the energy so hard. It was unbelievable. I mean, you know, I guess it's the new applause. It was just totally awesome, like different, but awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't as different as I was expecting to be. The absent PA, not having the PA and feeling that rumble of the PA, that's a different experience. But I'll bet you that's a little bit going back to, you know, many years ago when things weren't as booming and as loud as technologically mega as they are now. It's probably kind of like that, you know, back in the day. I almost wanted to take my in-ears out during the show and quit with because you didn't need it. It was really void of sound out there, which is interesting.
I found that the cars, the sound was actually better than being at a festival.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it sounded so great. I was sort of shocked by it.
So when this whole thing, COVID thing started, I remember March 10th, I was doing a show. We did the last show on Earth, last 4 shows. We did the Allman Brothers 50, then we did 311's day. And my wife and I were in Vegas and there wasn't a soul there. 2 days later, I'd already kind of called this thing, you know, a couple of months ago and said, we better get ready for this thing. It's going to happen. And, you know, early on, I was saying that what we need to do is we don't need these washed over things in studios. We don't need this. We don't need that. What we need is this is an opportunity for bands to get back to their brand. What is this band about? And what are the core roots? And let's go do some things that the bands would never be able to do on a normal touring schedule, or normal album release schedule, or normal, you know, world where it was, you know, the hamster wheel is just going fast. And, you know, this idea was so Avett Brothers. It was so Avett Brothers to be in your hometown at this track with a classic old American car and just kind of do it your way in your place. Dolph, you know, what do you see as like the you know, did you feel that and know that it was just kind of like, hey, this feels like home to us and we're just going to do it, you know, the way we know how to do it best?
Yeah. I mean, it felt natural to me. Maybe, I don't know. Cause the track is it's in our hometown. So, you know, Scott and Seth, I don't think grew up as massive, you know, race fans. You know, I went to my first race I saw there in 1976. So I'm dating myself. But as a kid, that was like all the kids I grew up with. That was our Disney World, that Speedway. It was such a landmark in some ways. So I don't know. I just thought it was the coolest thing. I mean, again, we took advantage of the massive screen, and until you're in front of that screen, you know, a 16,000 square foot screen, you know, you maybe don't grasp how big it is, but that is so big. And I think we just took advantage of having that in our backyard.
Yeah, it's a building. It's
huge. Massive.
Yeah, I tell you what, it felt special. It was just, you know, just incredible to be a part of. You know, we had the hurricane kind of come through. It was windy and it just, the weather opened up for us and everything was like, we were all kind of worried if it's going to happen, and everybody did such a great job. And, you know, I'm excited to give it a whirl again and get back after it. Scott, I was going to ask you, you know, just kind of veer off a little bit because, you know, we've done a couple things through this with the PBS thing on the Avett Brothers at Red Rocks. And so what have you been doing? You're a creative guy like me. I'm an artist. You're an artist. What have you been doing with all this time? And kind of how have you been expressing your creative outlet through all this? I mean, obviously, you know, you're a big family man like I am, and obviously I've seen from your posts, have enjoyed being with family and going fishing and just, you know, gardening and doing all that. But, you know, on the creative side, you know, what has this kind of been able to do for your art and your music?
Yeah. Well, there's a real seasonal relationship with me and how I put on different hats for music and for visual work. It's all one. It's all coming from the same person and place and source. But in March, I was preparing myself mentally to sort of close down the visual side of things, to close down the studio per se, because I usually work a lot in the visual studio in the fall and the winter. And then when we kick back to touring, I just sort of turn my back on it, wrap things up, and then I will work still throughout the year. But I'd sort of finished some big projects and had a couple big shows and said, okay, now I'm an Avett brother again, and here we go again. And it's funny, my post on Instagram, the empty living room concert started because I needed an audience. This is before the pandemic. I needed an audience or a reason, like I needed to know I was playing for somebody to warm myself back up to get on the road, because I'd gone so deep into the painting studio. And I said, okay, I'm now turning back into the Avett brothers. So I started posting those things just because I was practicing to go to the Dominican and do that show and then kick off the year. And the year was a big year. When it shut down, I just said, well, I first had an explosion of a lot of lyrical ideas. And then I realized that the painting studio doesn't need to be closed. And so I started thinking in more methodical and slower paced visual work that would be integrated into, I wasn't thinking as clear as this. This is a little bit hindsight, but I just slowed everything down. I shifted how it worked and everything. And then I started going with the music. We were set to record again, and we've had to put that on hold. So, well, maybe that batch of songs wasn't even what we're recording next. Said, just open the door, keep the door open, and let whatever comes, come. And so there's been more space to allow more, to me, in my own little world, influential songs to live with me and stay with me. Sometimes I deny them, and sometimes I just can't anymore. So there's a really natural pace of creativity happening. It doesn't monetize. I don't know, I don't make, every day in and day. It's different touring. You go, you do a job, you get paid for doing it. It's really clear. And that's a really beautiful thing about it. It's like swinging a hammer. And for blue collar upbringing, that makes so much sense. And it's so beautiful for us. And it's something that's harder for me at home, like disciplining my time. Like, here's when you're going to work. Not, well, I'll have coffee a little longer and then I'll slip down there. Or, you start or I'm going to go and pace for 3 hours just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. You don't have that in touring. It's like, it's time. Here's where we got to be. And that structure is really good for me. That all being said, what's that?
And then there's kids.
And then there's kids. See, all that, man. And it's all, all of it circles around that. And that's all been integrated more into my studio time. And I find the kids doing more stuff because they're watching dad do it. It's been priceless in that way. It's been important. But there's been a lot of work made. I have made tons of work, and I planned on not sort of turning my back on the creativity and just going and swinging my hammer. And it's been like, no, you're going to be in the studio a lot. So my studio has turned into a very lively place where it's just a lot going on. And we shoot a lot of stuff here. People have been coming to us, and we've been shooting videos like you did with the PBS thing. So there's that. And the comfort of being in stationary is powerful. It really is. My anxiety levels are very low in that regard when you're always on the move. Now, they're different now, though. There's other anxieties that are slow burn anxieties now from the pandemic and from the social unrest. The whole world is just, it just nags at you for a while, but it's not so difficult to find places to relieve that and just have a breath. So,
well, the painting you did, I think the name of it was Creek. I thought that was such a powerful painting. To other people, they may not have read into it like I did. I got 2 boys, and all they've done during this is playing the creek. And it reminds me of James Taylor's song Copperline, about him growing up in the creek, and just there's that little ecosystem, and that was their science class. They've been sitting down there playing it, and I love that painting so much, and it was like, man, I connected with it, and it's just so cool.
Man, look, it's science class and it's church.
Yeah.
Like my whole thing was I started taking these walks, and you get these moments when you really take time to it turns into meditation. You can't help it. And I'm just looking at that going, man, I don't know what everybody else's everything is right now, but that's everything right now for me. There's everything. Here it is. It's all. And I took that to the studio, and I thought it was just gonna be a pencil drawing. So I drew the whole thing in pencil, and then I was like, oh, damn it, I got to paint this thing. And it took like about 80 hours to paint it. So it's like, but I can't, putting 80 hours into a painting is not something I'm usually afforded. So that's been that kind of slow focus. There's a lot to it. There's the life of that inception, like the boys being in the creek. And then there's a life of living with the documentation of it. You see, you feel, and then you document, and there's all these different levels of it. And they're all key, man. And they're all magical. They're all incredible. It's just life.
Well, and being a kid through all this it was so weird, but they've just, I think it's been kind of good. They've gotten to play in the backyard and learn how to garden and do all this cool stuff. And, you got to find all the positives, in these things and move forward. But, speaking of moving forward, like what, Dolph, I'll put this on you. Like, we're going to do a couple more of these shows. It doesn't look like we're getting back to business as usual for quite some time. What do you think, 2021 is going to look like?
Oh, well, I do think these two shows are showing that there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I really don't, it's day to day. So I really don't know. I mean, I'm hoping things will get to somewhat, maybe the latter half of 2021 will get to somewhat normal. I just don't know. I mean, there's hope. I mean, my sister works for the FDA, and she tells me, there's like thousands of drugs trying to come onto the market to help fight this. Not vaccines, just drugs to keep people alive. So, if a couple of those hit and help, and then maybe there is a vaccine and that helps, it does seem like we're getting our hands wrapped around maybe keeping people living, which is half the battle. So, or more than half the battle. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but yeah, I guess it's just we shall see.
Yeah, on March, I go back to that, April and March moment. I was talking with the owner of my company, John Hoffman, great guy, old Marine dude. He said, Adam, he's like, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I got a pretty good plan, but I know this. We're on a mission, and our mission is we've got a unique opportunity. We're one of the only companies out there that can get music to people right now. Whatever the hell we got to do, however financially terrible it is for us, we need to make sure that we keep getting in any capacity music back to the people. Because I tend to believe that, some of why, besides being trapped in the house with your wife and kids for 2 months, some of why everyone got so upset, there's a lot of more reasons. I don't want to downgrade the reasons why people got upset, but I think in June and May, but I think people being together and being in concerts and be able to shake each other's hands and be able to hug and be able to listen to music and be able to have a jubilee is such an important part of our culture, and has been such an important part of our culture from the beginning of time. And so, I think, I hold it very, it's a very serious thing for us to, obviously we want to make it beautiful production and the audio sound good, but getting music into people, in people's homes and backyards and such is just what we're going to have to do. And you are going to have to keep coming up with the ideas, and Scott and the boys are going to have to keep playing beautiful music, and we're going to have to keep filming it and getting it out to them so that they can do it and find, we're going to have to ebb and flow back and forth with it as things come and go, and just do what's best and safest for the fans and everything. But man, I go back to this deal we did, and it just felt so good to connect. And there was so much positive energy in the air that night. And, you know, it was great. And listen, I'm going to take a turn. It was, you know, I'll be honest, I hadn't listened to the Third Gleam as much as I should have going in, because I was busy. And it allowed me to, you know, when we get these things in post, we kind of get to look at them and go over them and hear them and hear them and hear them. And man, I fell in love with that album. I go to my knee, or I go to my heart is my new favorite song of all time. It might go in my top 5 of all times. It feels like it's just powerful. Just something about it. Just second it hit me, it just did. And you guys have that kind of that Paul McCartney, John Lennon ability to be able to write words that just hit so hard. It's unbelievable. Tell me, did this album happen before COVID or during COVID or after COVID, or what was the evolution?
Yeah, it happened before. We were, I guess we recorded it in 2019. And I think the connection that a lot of people make with it into the pandemic and then into the social unrest and Black Lives Matter, et cetera, has been, you know, the thing is, a lot of the social issues have been going on for a long time. So to tie that to the things here and there, to that, to me, it makes sense. We didn't think a lot about the song's issues until we were just trying to get the thing out and realizing, well, this thing kind of fits perfectly right now for us anyway. That was so far from intentional. And our knee-jerk reaction was we were going to release it sometime this year, and then we were like, we got to get this out as soon as possible so we can give something to our fans, so we can make something available that maybe people be like, well, you know, this moment right now sucks, but here's a song I like, here's a release of something. So we were just trying to do our part. Overall, this whole thing has been, I get it reaffirms what our contribution is. Like, our contribution is to keep making things based on our relationship with living and with love and with pain and with happiness and joy. And as long as we're expressing that, you know, in our little way, from our little point of view, which is just one point of view or 2 points of view, that's all it is. But if we're sharing what ours is with people and people are relating to it, that's great. You know, that's our contribution. But the record was made before. It's the 4 songs are kind of easily, it's easy to identify Seth and my songs, and it's pretty clear. Like, Seth's have a narrative. They're really more storytelling in a lot of ways. They paint a picture in a story narrative type of way, and then mine are way more self mental and emotional and analysis, sort of, if you will. That's a cold word, but just really turning the gun on myself and really wandering that path. I think the two together form its own character that has sort of kind of juggling both those things, which one tends to feel a little more social and communal, and then one feels a little more isolated, and which are both things that we all deal with, that everybody deals with. And all this is hindsight. We don't really, the concept was just, hey, these are songs for the Gleam. You bring 4, I bring 4. We didn't talk about what they were going to be. That's where I was, and that's where he was, and that's what we brought to the table, and that was all we had, and that's what we put out there. But there's no frills to it. It's like, it's us, and that's it. You know, it's Seth and I, and Bob's bass playing on I Go to My Heart was my favorite bass playing he's ever done. And you know, he had plenty of other complicated things to do, but he just pops those couple notes in there. I was like, oh, Bob, breaks your heart, man.
It does. It's such a powerful thing, and that's the beautiful thing about a beautiful song, is it can mean so many different things to so many different people. You write it for you. And I interview a lot of musicians.
Yeah, totally.
I have my own show where we do nothing but ask these questions, and you get the same reaction. I always ask, I say, hey, you wrote this song. It means this to you. What does it mean to you? It means this to you. And then what are things that other people have brought back to you that it means to them? And I think that was what's so powerful about the album, with the Black Lives Matter movement, the pandemic, everything going on out there. It's just your emotional outlet that other people can take a touch with. That's what a good song is. If you can connect to it. I mean, it reminds me, I tell this story all the time. The first time I was 8 years old, I was at my best friend Carter Griffin's house. We were downstairs, we were playing Legos. He had shag carpet this tall. I can remember the smell. His brother came in from a Grateful Dead show. He smelled like a Grateful Dead concert, and his eyes were a little slanted and red. And he comes in, he goes, guys, you gotta listen to this song. And he put on American Beauty and played Sugar Magnolia. And every time I listen to that song now, I smell that carpet. I smell those Legos. I was in that room, and that emotional connection that people find it in a place that they just tie it into is special. And I think people are going to take this album. Which I love an album that you learn something new about it every day. You keep listening to it and you find something new, you find a little hole, you find something you like, and it's cool. And it's hopefully I can have a little influence on the set list coming up, and we get some of those songs when we do this show in a few weeks.
No chance. No, I'm just kidding. And
I knew that was the answer.
No. I have to say, smell those Legos sounds like some sort of code language, man. I smell those Legos, man. I don't know.
Hey, I don't know. He might have, the whole dosing thing. You never know. I might have actually been smelling and seeing those Legos for all I know.
I grew up with shag carpet. Did anybody have shag? Did y'all have shag carpet?
Nah.
Well,
I did not have.
We could afford shag carpet, dog.
Well, listen, one of my chores of the week, we had a shag carpet rake, and I had to rake the shag carpet. Kid you not. So that's a long time ago, but you can find a ton of stuff in shag carpet.
Well, we weren't raking our carpet. No, we were raking the garden and the yard. Okay, dog.
Old Jim put you to work, huh?
That's right. We were shucking corn and raking the front yard.
That's amazing. Well, I can't wait for this thing. I've talked to Adrian and about the intro. I can't wait to do that again and practice. And what a fun event this is going to be. Y'all got anything y'all gonna leak out? What do we got?
I mean, we're just looking to play the show. Like there's no, I think we learned a lot from just the simplicity. Like I was talking to Pete, our lighting and stage. Where is Pete? Pete is art director, really, for the Avett Brothers. Pete Schroed, and runs all the lighting and helps design. And we put so much into that New Year's Eve show. For the production, I mean, we've never gone that far. We put so much effort, so much time, so much money. And we never would have done that if we'd have known what 2020 was going to be like. Like, we just were like, we're all in. Hey, look, it doesn't matter. We're going for it. And we were so, I don't know, so blown away at how simple the driving show. I mean, we did nothing for, behind us. The backdrop was nothing. And we've got great crews in place. Everybody's doing their job. It's a real straightforward thing. And it's about people getting together, and it's about the songs. And to think we need more is probably not true. We all need to show up, and then it all kind of takes care of itself. Now, we can't help but start wanting to compose something. It's just, I know it's in my nature. I always want to compose and work things into the space that we have. If you find out there's 2 hours before a show, it's like, what can we show? what can we put up on the screen? If you find out there's a space over here on the stage, well, what can we do with it? That's how I've always thought. If you have a record called The Gleam, you think, hey, can this be a series? Can we put out more? You just, whatever you can do. I have a tendency to want to fill it with space, but this has been a good reminder of negative space and the power of it, both with the album release and with the show. So we want to lean into that again on this show. And we want to, I'll say this too, the stage and the speedway and everything, or the screen and the speedway, it's so mega, so massive. And we talked in the beginning, like, we really need to perform in a way that we're bringing people in. We're not going to be working the stage like we do when we have a 7-piece band. And so we need to treat this like a studio performance, like a TV performance. And with that, you can't help what starts to happen is more emotion. It gives space for more emotion to work. It gives space for you to focus on the songs and what's being said and how it's being said. And they're both good. I love both approaches. I really do. But I think with that big screen, it's a good opportunity to bring people in. And then we all get to live in a moment together instead of like blasting out at them, which is a tip that years ago, Conan O'Brien said to us. He was like, we performed Murder in the City on that show. And Conan said, I see so many groups try to blast their way out of the TV, and you can't do it. It's impossible. But you can bring people in. And that's a move like this. Like, that's not like it's just like a little move. And it's just you being you, man, it's you being you. And that's interesting. And it's just hard to trust that sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust.
When we first met and we first did our first streaming project, it was our first big streaming project in 2014. And Pete, we did it, the legendary Give Back, St. Jude's and Cheerwine. It was such a cool event, Tennessee Theater, such a beautiful theater.
Yeah.
And, when we turned the cameras on, I remember this. We did the show. We did it all in 23.9.8 with our cinema cameras. Every person on earth told us we couldn't do it. It wasn't going to happen. We get there, and Pete's light, I remember he had these silver sheen, it was like a screen behind it. He put lights up on it, and the way he lit it with silver and gold, it looked so cinematic, and it looked so vintage, and it looked so authentic. And then the way we captured it, we came home that night and sat in the hotel room. We all watched it. We were like, holy crap. We have really got something here. If we can stream music like this, that looks like a movie, doing something. Because, when we started, what my approach to music streaming and live films and any music is that sports is very matter of fact. It's this down, this capture, this is high definition as you possibly can. Music is not like that. Music is, people go to a concert for 2 hours, 3 hours to get away from their problems. They say, take me. I want this band, my favorite people, to perform whatever they perform, and I want to leave all my problems at home. I want to be there. And, sports, the sports style cameras and the sports style way of doing it was just so matter of fact. It didn't work. So what we crafted was music has a story. We got to tell this story and make a movie with our broadcasts and with our productions. It could be on brand for each band. It could be, fit their gig. But I think that's what worked so well with this was that not only we were streaming out to the world, but we were streaming up to this 200-foot board where they were there. They could feel all the energy of a real concert. They could feel all the energy of that, but then they had this movie to watch and put blankets around and snuggle with their family and sit on the back. And it was just, hey, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. And, some of that, luck favors prepared mind, but wow, like what the whole thing came together with you guys, Pete's Light, Jim Cranfield and Bramer and SES, and they just, everything just was one of those, serendipitous moments, as my grandfather used to say. It's just one of those serendipitous moments that everything just came together and time just stopped just a little bit, and we tilted the earth just a little bit in the right direction, and it was cool. I mean, it was interesting, and I've seen all these fans over here saying that, and I did see one fan just called you extra, so I don't know how you feel about that, Scott, but
Called what?
called you extra. She said, "You're so extra, Scott."
Extra's good. Extra's
Extra's
good.
Extra's good.
Yeah, I like extra.
Yeah, so let's try to go do this thing again.
Let's do it. And yeah, I agree. Let's don't worry about being good. Let's just all get together and have a good time. I mean, really, it'll be great. Dolph, should you answer that? Do we know about
I think he just left. I think his internet.
Dolph just left?
Yeah, by accident. I'm not sure.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Because they were asking about the streaming. I don't know if what the status is of that. Okay, then I don't know that we can answer that yet. I hope we're streaming it, but I don't know if this has been a later one to get together. Yeah, I hope we are. Something about, just to say, because you made me think about it, and I think about young people that might be, a lot of people are figuring it out on their own accord, like in their own way, and that's great. And that's the point. That really is the point. But a lot of people who might be miffed about it or feel stuck in whatever profession it is, like we can talk to entertainment. That's a little easier to talk to. I could sort of, it's easy to relate to it. But for Pete and us and how we've worked that look and the accumulation of activity or negative space on stage, one beautiful thing about it for the past 20 years for us, that's 19 years, has been that we've done it on at our own pace. And we've done it really, it's been really a mess sometimes. It's been a mess a lot of times. And that's great. It's okay, but the thing is we turn the wheel over a lot of times. And every time we would, this great thing would happen eventually. And when you came along and shot that show and those lights were working on that silver and gold backdrop, that's just one of those moments where it's working. And for every one of those, there might be 10 it doesn't. It's all good. It's always working somehow. But we've been loving being on the journey for the past 19 years, and I feel like the future's bright. The future's bright. We got to weather this storm, and when we get through it, we'll be able to. There'll be a new normal, and it'll be great. And we're on it. We're working on it right now. Figuring out what this is and what it is now, and that'll help with what it's going to be.
Well, one thing I know about you and your brother and Bob and the whole Avett Brothers organization and me and my entire team, we're grateful. And we mean it. We love what we do every damn second.
Yeah,
we feel it from our heart all the way down to our toes. And this is not a job for me. This is what I do. This is what I live. This is how I am. I fish and I film stuff. And that's, and I think, it's just, I just want to thank you guys. I mean, you always have been the best partners, that you are who you are. And I love to meet people in this industry that are who they are. And you are the same person that you are on this thing and on the stage and behind the scenes. And so I appreciate that. And really, we've built a hell of a thing, and I hope to keep building it. If we're still lucky to do such. And so we're grateful, and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Obviously, mask and social distance. You and I are going to have a race around the tracks. I got a Toyota Sienna, so we'll do Toyota Sienna versus Honda Odyssey, and that's the goal.
I might bring a little something different this time.
Oh, I hear you. Right on. Fun. No.
Awesome.
Well, Adam, let me jump back in here real quick and just say thank you very much to both of you and to Dolph, who somehow got cut off. He
said he lost power, so he must have lost power at his house. So
No worries. But this has been a treat. As a fan of your music,
Thank you.
Scott, I've enjoyed just listening to this, and so many of the comments in the chat here are
So
praising
nice.
you and the authenticity of your band and the sincerity of you as a art creator. So thank you for the music, and thank you for the painting, and just keep doing what you do. Adam,
you.
we appreciate you and your artistic endeavors as well, and hope that you guys will keep making beautiful music together, shall we say. Folks, to the audience, thank you for your time and attention today. We've got one more of these tomorrow, by the way, and it must be race week, because tomorrow we feature Jason Rittenberry, who is the godfather of the Nashville Grand Prix that's going to take place next August in Nashville. But nonetheless, we appreciate everyone's being here, encourage you to be nice to each other, and to vote on November 3rd. Wear a mask.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all. See you, Adam.
See you, bud.